My name is Maria Loftus, and I'm a medical school admissions consultant here at Kaplan. Prior to joining Kaplan, I was the Assistant Dean for Recruitment and Admissions at the University of California, San Diego School of Medicine. I was there for about 20 years. During that time, I had the wonderful opportunity to represent all of the Western medical schools, that's Colorado West, to the National Committee on Admissions for the Association of American Medical Colleges. Not only did I represent the Western schools, but I went on to chair that committee. And what was really great was I got to work with admissions committees across the country on best practices for admissions. And while I was there to help teach them some of those best practices, I also got to learn what they were doing. And that was a real eye-opener for me because I just assumed everybody did it the way we did it. And in fact, there are a lot of nuances. Well, since retiring from the university, I now get to do what I enjoy most, which is working with our clients, pre-med students, as they put together their application and apply to medical school. And I really, really enjoy doing that. So as you all probably know, one of the important components of the application process is the medical school interview. And today we're going to be going through one of the fairly common and really important interview questions. I'm joined today by Annika, and I'm going to ask her to introduce herself to all of you.
Hi, my name is Annika. I'm from Pasadena in Southern California, and today I'll be posing as a medical school interviewee.
Great. So are you ready to get started?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So please tell me about a time when you disagreed with someone or something, and tell me what happened and how it turned out.
Okay, that's a good question. I'm so sorry. Can I have like a second to think about the question?
Of course.
Okay. During college, I was part of my college's yearbook committee, and I was our writing editor. And so in that role, I got to oversee a bunch of novice writers, and it was a really unique experience where I had the opportunity to work with students who didn't have experience previously writing for a yearbook or writing in the particular styles we wanted or any of those types of things. But our main editor didn't realistically want to put a lot of time into training people. She just wanted to bring in new writers who had a lot of experience. And from the standpoint that I saw it, I wanted to bring in people who were really excited about this opportunity and who had fresh eyes. And to me, their prior experience, I felt we could supplement that with PowerPoints and just different workshops and whatnot. And so we had a little bit of a disagreement when we were picking new students for this role. And we ended up working together, and we got to interview together in this role. And I spent the time outside making workshops, and I assured her that I would spend that extra time training people should they be novices. And we just kind of came to the agreement to pick people who had some experience and some people who were absolute novices. And it was a really great opportunity because we ended up being able to put together training modules that have been used for years and years to come. And so there's less pressure to pick students who from high school had experience. And I think in this role, in this experience, it really showed me how even if you don't agree with someone and both sides have some legitimacy to their answer, what she was saying made sense, and that we picked people who were proficient in writing and had that experience, our jobs might be easier. But for my role, I thought it was really neat to be able to see how we could shape new minds and new ideas. And it was just really neat to come together and put together this really unique solution. And although it took a lot of time, I'm really happy to see how that solution is actually transcended through the years to come on my yearbook staff.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So the reason you might get this kind of a question from a medical school is, as a physician, your job, kind of job one is to advocate on behalf of your patient. And so we want to know that people have already begun to develop advocacy skills, not only for yourself, advocating for your own position, for your the diagnosis that you believe is the correct diagnosis of a patient, or tests that you might want to have ordered. And all of this, as I said, really comes down to advocating for your patient. So we would be concerned whenever we have an applicant who says to us, gosh, they can't think of a time when they have disagreed with someone or something, because that suggests that, you know, you're not really aware of the world around you and the injustices that take place, that you're not ever going to color outside the lines or learning to pick and choose your battles. So that's why we want to see that someone has already begun to develop these skills. In telling the story, Annika did a great job not only of relating the facts of what happened and the individual, the position that had been taken that she disagreed with, but why that person had those opinions, why she had her opinions, what she did about it, then acknowledging that what she had learned, which was that even when you're on opposite sides of a position, you often have things that you can learn from each other. And if in your storytelling, when you respond to this type of question, if you can think of opportunities not only to share what you learned, how you grew, how and what your perspective may have changed, but also the extent to which you have used those skills, that additional perspective, knowledge going forward. If you can work in an opportunity to talk about a time when you then applied what you had learned, and possibly, not always, but possibly even link that to how and why you think this additional skills and knowledge is going to help you be a physician, then you've really gotten the most bang for the buck out of responding to a question. But I do want to emphasize that you don't force the issue. If it doesn't seem to flow to talk about how this is going to make you a better doctor, then don't force that. But certainly always talk about and what you learned from the experience, because that's what we're looking for. That all of life is a learning experience, and that you really reflect upon what a situation has had to teach you. So Annika, when you were applying to medical school and interviewing, did you get these kinds of questions?
Absolutely. I've heard that question multiple times before. This is not the first time. It's a very common question to come across. And I think another similar nuance of that is you'll hear, tell me about a time you failed and what did you do to come back from the situation. And I've heard either the question that you posed or tell me about a time you failed, and they're very similar questions at almost every single medical interview that I've gone to. So definitely be prepared to share your experiences, know your AMCAS application backwards and forwards, and that'll help you bring an answer together quickly. One tip I always give my friends when they're getting ready to interview is just to have a couple go-to extracurriculars that you can talk about, and a lot of times you can match things that happen with that extracurricular into a bunch of different stories. Yearbook tended to be one of my go-to ones. It served as a leadership experience. It allowed me to talk about teamwork, and it allowed me to talk about teaching, which I had been really passionate about during my gap year and during undergrad as well.
Thank you. One thing that I'd like to comment on is Annika, in her response, asked if she could take a pause and think about what she wanted to say. If that happens to you, it's totally okay. Certainly anything under 10 seconds feels very normal. You know, it's not going to cause you or the interviewer any discomfort. I will say if it gets to be about 15 seconds, you're probably starting to squirm a little bit. And so if you haven't come up with your answer at about the 15-second mark, then I would suggest that you ask if you can come back to the question at the end of the interview. The interviewer is almost invariably going to say yes, that's fine. The only downside to asking to come back to it is it does mean that part of your brain is always going to be, processing that question and what your answer is going to be while you were trying to respond to the subsequent questions. So it's not the ideal situation to ask if you can put off your response until the end. But if that's what you need, take it. And certainly it's okay to just ask for a brief pause to consider your answer and then respond once you've organized your thoughts. So thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, please just write them in the comment box below and we'll be sure to get back to you. And if, as you're applying to medical school, if you've got questions or need help, just know that's what we're here for. Thank you.